This computer. Good morning, Narelle.
Good morning, Amanda.
Here we are, podcast Girl Awakening.
Yay!
We've been hanging out for this. It feels like a little bit of I'll say millennium, but not that long.
Not that long, but it does feel like a while that we've been hanging out for this one.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's the thing when you have to book people in advance and you get excited, and then the day comes when you get to sit with them.
Yeah. And you go, today's the day. Woo!
Yeah. we're in the zone. We're in the zone. And we're just going to leap straight in and introduce this beautiful lady with something that's a little bit almost like a mindful moment. So
good way to drop in.
If you just want to close your eyes for a moment and imagine the feeling of taking a deep breath, letting the world slip away and immersing yourself in the moment of a fierce truth. Picture the rush of inspiration, the thrill of self-discovery, and the warmth of shared stories that await for you within this adventure, where your emotions are ignited, your dreams of your purpose kindled, and your spirit set free. Now bring yourself back and impose that experience into print or the digital pages of a magazine. The baby of the lady we have the honor of sitting with today, Kim Bleeze, founder of Fierce Truth magazine, a publication that asks, what is your fierce truth? Hi, Kim.
Hi, Amanda. I'm so excited.
Oh, I was like to cry.
I know, that was so powerful. And, that moment obviously just happened before we were talking, before the podcast started, but it's had the same impact, just the tingles and spirit moving in really close. So it's so beautiful.
Oh, and this is, as we share, this is a little extract from Kim's website, Fierce Truth magazine, in the About Us section, which shares, a little bit around, I'll say a little bit because there's a big story there of what Fierce Truth is. And I had to share that as your introduction today, as it resonated so well with what our podcast Girl Awakening is about. And our first question, what is your awakening, or how did your awakening begin? And just my take from looking at your website and getting to know you a little bit for today was just so loving how you're shifting the lines, with such a dynamic blending of what is digital print and this dynamic dimension of life we're walking. I want to say 3D, 5D, 12D, whatever dimension we're walking between. And I feel a really beautiful connection between the digital AI evolution and the humanness of what Fierce Truth is all about, what you've created in that space. It's you just feel so connected with what you're sharing there, the humanness and how you're getting that medium across to people.
Thank you. I've never looked at it that way before. And now that you have voiced it so eloquently, it's perfect, I think, for what we're trying to create.
Yeah, amazing. And so, Kim, that's a beautiful bit of an introduction to a snippet of your world. We'd love for you to just introduce yourself to the listeners and the viewers who are watching, and just who you are and what you do, and just a little taster of who you are.
Yeah. Gosh, where do I start? I suppose I'm a mum of two. I've got two grown kids in their 30s, early 30s. So I'm feeling super old at the moment. I am a medium above everything that I do, whether it be the magazine or coaching or, whatever sort of, I feel inspired to create in the world. My connection to spirit is what comes first. And so everything that I create is spirit-led. And so I'm a medium. I do work in that space of mediumship readings and connecting to loved ones in the spirit world. I've been doing that now it would have to be at least 17 years. I kind of lose count. And time has been really weird for me lately. And so what feels like a week has been a month. And it's really hard to keep track of how long something has been going for. And who else am I? I am a writer. Hence, I think what has contributed to the birth of Fierce Truth magazine as well, that love of the word and having people have that voice through their word as well, and the written word. Essentially, I'm really, I think, simple, like really easy to please. I'm a kind of barefoot get out in the wilderness with my drum and a cup of cacao kind of girl. And I live in a van. And so I'm in a house at the moment, but I travel in a van. And so most of the magazine has actually been created in the back of a van while I've been on the road. Not all of it, hasn't been all the journey since it birth, but it's certainly a big part of the story and big part of the journey. And even that within itself, trying to navigate running a business and a company and putting the magazine together within itself, in that space has been a big feat, a big challenge, I think. But we're still going. So that's me in short. It's been a while since I've answered that question for myself. I'm normally the one asking it. So
that was awesome. It was really well rounded for a short caption. So thank you.
I get just this connection with a gypsy, like of through the ages, like literally this thing of time's coming up a lot, dimensions, millennium. Mediumship, those I feel like you've like this gypsy through many lineages of you're still living your truth in this space. It's like, wow, it's just my head's going wrong. So gorgeous.
Amazing.
So let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. Go on.
Yeah, shall I? Kim, can you tell us how did your awakening begin and when?
You know what? Knowing that I was going to be asked this question, I've been giving it some thought through the week, and it happened in stages. I think for me, a very long time ago now. It's probably at least 20 years. I think would have to be, and I always knew that I had an inkling of psychic awareness there, even though I may not have understood the words to use for it. And I was in a relationship at the time with someone who wasn't the most, I suppose, the best partner. But I remember very distinctly, this is probably the most profound experience that I had throughout my awakening. And I was lying on the beach. I was living in Hervey Bay at the time. And I had this vision of him being with this other woman. And like, it was so triggering, obviously. But it was so vivid that I remember sitting up, like almost sitting up with a fright, and later on I found out, he was cheating, and the image that I saw looked very similar to one of the girls, because there was a few, one of the girls that he'd been cheating, I can laugh about it now. Yeah. And that just really opened up a succession of, I just started to really know things, and there was no doubt in my mind that something was true if I felt I knew it. And I suppose a deeper connection to my children in regards to, are they telling me the truth? What's going on there more than just that mum's intuition. And I think it really snowballed from there. And then I discovered The Secret. I got involved in a personal development company. And that's when I really started to look at the principles around not so much spirituality, because that was still not a word that was really in my language back then, but just the connection to ourselves and starting to really understand that we are more than what we see in the mirror, and that there's a whole world that we can't see out there as well. And so I think that those, and that happened in the space of probably 6 months, 12 months, those two sort of ins into my spiritual awakening. And it's just been nonstop since then. Then I kind of left Hervey Bay, found spirit, and, I haven't looked back since.
So really short encapsulation of time, really, for like some very powerful sight and changes, like, ways of living, really, to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And look, when I moved back, because I left actually Hervey Bay to travel for a bit, and I got stuck in Melbourne with, custody stuff and everything. The kids were sort of young teenagers then, and I was still, what I would say, asleep. I was still going out to party and everything. And then I stepped into development circle, started studying spirit, and it probably wasn't long after that my whole world exploded with this just new awareness to who I was. Spirit, I'm not alone, that we have chakras, auras, like all of the above. But there was still probably a time frame of maybe 6 months between leaving Harvey Bay to sort of really stepping into the fullness of that. Yep, I'm awake. So there was
What
probably 18 months. Pardon?
And then what that brings, like once you kind of get into like a certain level of what your choices are, and then what that brings you then is like a whole nother story again, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. I remember because it happened when I started, when I when I allowed spirit to sort of, for me to have the awareness of spirit and really open up to that space, and I was developing my psychic abilities even more and everything. So everything changed, like my belief system, how I saw myself, how I saw the world instantly. And after that kind of prelude of all those other experiences, and I remember it happened so quickly, my kids thought that I'd joined a cult. They were really worried about me because suddenly I'm talking about spirit and seeing things and going and working at festivals, and I remember them and my sister, I think, for a little bit, and it was short-lived because they understood eventually, but they thought that I joined a cult and there was something wrong with me, and I hadn't. But because we'd come from that place of having absolutely no awareness at all, being super 3D asleep, to this sudden invigoration of spirit, and that completely transformed my life. There's a distinct black and white between the two worlds that I walked.
Amazing. And I'm curious, I'm being guided really to ask this question about what spirit means for you. Like if you were to translate that for someone who's like, what is spirit? What is your answer to that?
Yeah. Well, first, and I answer this often in my workshop, so I'm sort of used to answering this, but it always changes as well, because when I open my mouth, because I'm so spirit-led, it's them.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we have our loved ones in the spirit world. So, that's I won't say obvious, because some people don't obviously have that understanding. And then we have our spirit team. But when I talk about spirit as that generalization, I'm talking about all human, not human, human too, but all consciousness without a physical body. And so whether that's our Palladian friends, whether that's our spirit team, our ancestors in spirit, our Native Americans in spirit, all manner of consciousness without that physical form.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in communication with spirit, which is sort of every day, they're just a part of my world, I'm either talking to my spirit team or just talking to spirit as that collective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally makes sense.
That's almost like a community, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. And I've got comedians that live in my head.
We'd like to see some of those come through.
I think they're funny buggers.
They do have such a great sense of humor, right? Because they're not weighed down by the density of the physical body, and like the emotions and all the things that we feel. So they're just levity, just pure lightness and levity, right? And so I do find that spirit is quite cheeky and has just a great sense of humor. Yeah,
absolutely. And I love it. And I, when you were talking, I remember when I think back to when I was a young mum. My kids were really young, and they'd go to do something, and it was going to be a disaster, but a funny disaster. You know what I mean? So you're kind of giggling and expecting the worst at the same time. And that always reminds me of spirit, because they're watching us. They've only got so much, no control over our free will at all, really, and they can see when we're going to create a disaster for ourselves. And sometimes that's funny, so, well, I laugh anyway. Like, I'm the friend who, if you said that your whole life was falling apart, I'd be like, yeah, awesome. What's happening? So
chance to rebuild it.
Yeah,
exactly.
How you want.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so good.
Well, so when did you our next question is, when did you first notice a shift in your thoughts around the world? So I guess, is that kind of tied back into your awakening before, or is there like a different dynamic?
I believe so. I think it was I think it would have been when I discovered The Secret, and I read The Secret and I watched the movie, and that really introduced the whole concept of, you know, us being more capable of more, you know, manifestation, you know, all of that. And I think that that definitely would have been that time frame that I started viewing the world differently. Like even when I'd go for my morning walks, even visually, like everything was greener. You know, I think that around that time I started meditating as well, and so everything was so much more vibrant. It just felt alive, whereas opposed to most of the time it's so easy to walk through life, you know, asleep, and everything is just dull. And so there was a definite, because I remember the moment still where I looked up at a tree, I think that I'd walked past, and it was just so green and so alive. And that was probably the first time it's like, wow, wow, here's this world that I never thought, you know, existed.
Yeah, because you don't realize it's dull until you have the contrast, right? Until you see what it really is. And then it's like, wow, it's like this the whole time, but I couldn't see it. And
And do you think that just listening to you share around that do you feel like that's like a change in frequency for self in the connection to spirit, as much like the resonating with the frequency of what is around us? Like,
Yeah, I
do you
think
think
so. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it.
Mhm.
And at that time, that was when I was, you know, that time I just explained, I was still in Harvey Bay. So spirit hadn't stepped into my life. Well, I didn't know that they were there. They were obviously still there, but um, I was certainly tapped more into my psychic abilities and being more mindful. So I'd started practicing mindfulness, and you know, which naturally raises your frequency. And so how could that not be what it is then? Yeah. And we're seeing, I suppose, you know, just the higher frequency and interacting with the high frequency of the trees and, you know, everything else around us as well. Like that makes sense for me.
beautiful? Yeah, I love that. And every time you refer to The Secret, like I haven't thought about that for a little while, and oh my God, that was like a little atomic bomb going off when that came out, wasn't it? Because like the group of people that were involved in sharing that information and the film and then the subsequent videos that came out, like Down the Rabbit Hole and all that sort of thing, was just like such a powerful group of people, and they're all pretty much doing such incredible work in the world today now. But a lot of it opened up a Pandora's box, didn't it, for a lot of people? Like how you talk about it in a very fortifying way, what The Secret opened up in you. But did you, when you talked to different people around The Secret, was it something like you said you stepped into a circle of self-development and growth from encountering The Secret?
No, that completely two different things. And so, I suppose in a way I got involved in, I can't even remember the company's name now. I got involved in a company, um, gosh, I honestly can't remember the name, but it was essentially a, you know, MLM, personal development, company. You know, you buy their product, join their business, then you get their, you know, then you get people to, you know, join up after you and everything. And so personal development was a big part of that. And The Secret was a big part of that. And so their teachings really resonated strongly with The Secret. And so that happened. And then stepping into a circle of a psychic development circle, essentially, you know, that just amplified it. And all of Spirit's teachings are in alignment with, you know, teachings, you know, around, or that would be similar to The Secret for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Isn't it interesting too? Like the contrast again, there's a little bit of a interweave here too, like between say like a multi-level marketing group, an MLM, a business group, but the self-development that is, you know, a very powerful part of it. But then there's also then come over here for segue for you into the spirit psychic world self-development pathway that opened up. I love that.
Yeah, and then they just sort of, I suppose, merged. And I did at the beginning, though, I think become really heavy. And I think it's not uncommon for light workers that are working in the psychic space or with spirit to be all up here with their energy and less focused on the physical.
Yeah.
And so when I look back now, like I stopped, I won't say stop caring about my physical body, but certainly I was really fit. And a lot of things kind of fell on the wayside because I was so, meditating and connecting to spirit. And so what I learned through, and so I picked up personal development again, like it's still a form of personal development, working spirit, obviously, but I wasn't until I started studying to be a coach that I think that the essence of personal development and self-inquiry, really came back into my life, and I was able to deepen that connection to myself even more and realize that I needed both. You need to, yes, have that connection to the spirit world and be able to, raise your vibration and everything, but you also need that balance of, working with what is here in the physical as well, and all your belief systems and your programming. And, I've got a lot of trauma in my life. And so I think that healing that trauma consciously came in a little bit later than looking back now than I would have liked. But, we know that everything happens at the right time as well. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah,
I go on tangents, did Narelle? Did she warn you?
We're all about a tangent.
I think one of my questions is 3 or 4 usually rolled into one. So it's like pick the part that really you want to start with. No, a tangent is always good because it, it's kind of like it's like a little treasure hunt. Something usually pops up that no one's expecting, and it's always just perfect. So yeah,
it's great. And so what kinds of things throughout this journey have happened to you or for you that sort of stand out the most, would you say?
If we're talking on what deepened, I suppose, my awakening, and there was 3 specific journeys I think that I've taken that have really deepened that, aside from, the ongoing personal development and self-inquiry and spirit. And those 3 things were going to Peru to sit with ayahuasca, walking the Camino. So I walked 800 kilometers across Spain. And what was the other one? And oh gosh, what was it? The dancing Uro retreat I went to. And so that was a 10 days or whatever it was, 10 days or whatever, of essentially being naked with other women and getting triggered every day and rebuilt, every day for that time frame. And so that was a very really getting to those deeper layers of the healing that I needed. But they all brought healing. They all brought, just that deeper connection to myself, which, just naturally raises your vibration and, puts you into that a deeper connection with the spirit world anyway, because you are spirit, so when you're doing the work and clearing all the garbage, we will naturally just build that connection with our own spirit as well.
Yeah, totally. Like just letting go of anything that's in the way of that deeper connection.
Yeah. So I think that they're probably the 3 things that I often mention in regards to what took my spiritual development, my human development, everything, to that next level. Each of them did. And then, there's other small things probably. I could go on forever, really.
I love the way that you brought in the triggering as a growth process, and looking at like the ayahuasca is like, like speaking with the mother, interdimensional, kind of the higher consciousness, and the Camino is a very physical experience, so the walking of the trail, and then the Eros experience, again, it's community and the whole divine feminine, and there's nowhere to hide in either of those spaces, is there?
No, and I love putting myself in those situations.
Yeah.
And the more triggering, the more growth because it just equals growth for me, that opportunity to be triggered and to have to bring the self-awareness to it.
Yeah.
You know, not to just be triggered and then, you know, be so reactive and step into that reactive space and not grow from it. And so most things that happen in my life, I might be caught in the moment of getting triggered. But most of the time I can catch it either in the moment or shortly after, and just really, you know, go into that space of self-inquiry and dig deeper to what the core issue is. And it's never or rarely about what happened. You know, it's always triggered something deeper in me that needs to be healed. That doesn't condone, you know, if someone's just done something that, you know, their behavior shouldn't be condoned, obviously, but just having that chance, still using it still as a healing tool. Yeah. And so I'm a big believer of just throwing myself in the fire and then just you know, healing from it.
Seeing what's, you know,
Seeing what comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a day of beautiful synchronicities. I was talking with a beautiful friend this morning, and we're talking around the process of healing from traumas and us and the experiences that raise a trigger. And they were sharing that they always ask, you know, what have I done in this experience? What is in it for me? You know, how am I sitting in this space? And, you know, what's the contribution that I've put for this to happen? And we were, you know, sharing from that around that even asking those questions is allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to grow from the experience and be resilient going forward, rather than sort of like pushing it away or blaming or projecting or, you know, walls up, you know. But those past traumas, you need to have a little bit of a space where you can sit and be brave enough to ask, as opposed to being immersed in them still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They're always our gifts, right? You know, if we're willing to look and be open and to feel the discomfort of it and move through it, such a gift. You just become lighter and brighter, because it's gonna hang around regardless. So you may as well face it and offload it. Otherwise, you're just carrying it in your backpack of shit for life.
Yeah, exactly, which I did for so many years. And, you know, I feel lighter. You know, there's still stuff there. And so I've still been, you know, while trying to I took myself in, you know, what am I even trying to say? Took myself on an even deeper healing journey the last probably 18 months. And so there's still stuff there that I'm unraveling, and it's just beautiful. But it's also been very challenging too, you know, especially when you need to still run a business and, you know, be a human out in the world. Yeah.
Show up.
Show up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to hide. I've been a real recluse. I'm still in the cocoon at the moment of transformation, I think, with the company, you know, the magazine and then myself too. And so, but I'm just getting, and this is kind of a part of, you know, even just being here today is a part of that, you know, I'm coming to the end of that cycle of being in that cocoon.
I love it.
Cocoon.
You're going to say goose, which is also a little cradly thing.
Is it really? Well, there you go. See?
Oh, that's
It's beautiful.
Really beautiful. So in that process then, what have you decided to change, if anything? Like, is it the physical? You were talking before about the physical.
Yeah, I've had a lot of, probably for the last 4 years, probably the last 8 years, I've had a lot of health problems come up. And I got sick maybe about 8 years ago for 2 years, 8-9 years ago for a couple of years. And my career as a medium, like, I really had to take that step back and limit how much I work and everything. And like, my energy's never recouped to what it used to be. And so that, and other health problems like my back and my hips and everything. And so that has been a real driver for me to, like, I want to grow old strong.
Yeah.
You know, I turned 53 a couple of days ago. 53, I think. You lose track. And like, I want to grow old strong. You know, I still want to be. I've got beautiful friends that are in their, I think they're mid-70s, and they're some of the fittest, coolest people I know. You know, because their health comes first. And so the thing that I really needed, because I'm so work focused, like, it's ridiculous, and I needed to change what my daily routine looked like. I needed to not check my emails first thing, because then it just like leads me down a wormhole of work. I need to get up and move and eat and do all the things that really bring that health into my life. And so that's been one of the biggest things I've needed to change this year, or I've been focused on changing this year, because we can't, spirit want us to be the best vehicle, for our spirit, in order to carry out our purpose. And if we don't have our health, we the energy that we have is going to be limited. And I let that fall away for a while, because I was so work. And I think too, though, a lot of that is connected to old trauma. And so as I've been shifting that, then I've been able to get to that point where it's like, yep, I'm going to do this, and I'm doing it, instead of sitting in, procrastination or avoidance and, any other state that doesn't serve me. And so that's certainly been the biggest one. Whereas when I first discovered spirit, I started to, I naively thought, oh, now it's all about being up here. No, it's still, we're here to live this physical experience. We still need to have the experience of it.
Yeah.
And so that's been one. And and then obviously changes in the company, with the magazine and everything as well. So my life kind of lives and breathes the magazine at the moment. So that's probably they're the only changes.
Just little ones.
Yeah.
Just little ones,
Given
but
that
both equally
it's like a
transformative.
global dynamic, but
Yeah.
and that you're global, you're your world. Yeah. Two
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Because
Wow.
what you're just sharing then, like when you were talking around your health journey and changing your priorities with starting your day, was for me, like, as a reflection on myself, but also one of our questions is feelings of self-love and self-worth, self-value that come into having the strength, I guess you could say, or also the awareness around choosing self first over all the other things that call us in life. These,
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that a lot of the reasons I wasn't stepping up into the space that spirit really needed me to be in, and I needed me to be in, was because of all the lack around, especially worthiness. I feel like I'm in a really good space with self-love, but that worthiness, there's still like deeper layers I'm still chipping at. And I'll get to a point where it's like, yeah, I've conquered it. And then I'm shown something else. It's like, am I allowed to swear? Is it okay?
yeah,
Yeah.
And then it's like, are you fucking serious? Like, didn't I just heal this? And it's just that deeper layer of it. And so, and I can't even remember what it is now, but I had an awareness last week that I could map back to, worth being the driver of that. And it's like, yeah, really, but it's just we'll probably still be working on this stuff after we're dead, really.
Feels that way.
They'll be
Feels
meeting
that
us in the light tunnel and going, so how's your self-worth, baby? Do you
Yeah.
feel worthy to come here?
Yeah,
You're up to
exactly.
80%. No, you gotta go back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So is it because you like the life that you're choosing, like as you shared before around living in a van, like that, is that kind of part of a balance thing for you too, like being a free spirit and having that choice of not being too restricted or weighed down with responsibilities? Or not that you're not up for responsibility, because I know you are, but like what bricks and mortar means, or what
Yeah.
those sort of pathways mean.
Yeah, that's been an interesting journey. At first, I loved walking the Camino so much that it was so simple. Like, life became so simple. You just follow the yellow arrow. You fed every night. Like, you didn't have to, there wasn't a lot of choices I needed to make, and when I was on the Camino, and look, my life isn't that simple now. I wish it was, but it certainly showed me, though. And I had 2 changes of clothes for like 6 weeks. You know what I mean? So it showed me that I didn't need all the stuff to be happy. So that was one part of it. And I really started to, because I've always wanted to travel, but I always thought that travel would be, you know, overseas predominantly. You know, I wanted to get, you know, and so seeing Australia at the time didn't really hold a lot of interest for me. Completely flipped on that. Australia is beautiful. And so so I started thinking about, well, how could I go home and replicate this? You know, and I wasn't going to walk around Australia, but the idea of, I think I came across a video by Van Life, and, you know, it's just a documentary essentially on people living in a van and, you know, and whatnot. And so I think that dropped in, a couple of other awarenesses dropped in, and then it was probably within the month of coming back from Spain that, you know, I said to the kids, and they were still living at home at the time, you know, I'm going to give everything away and pack up. And I only had a little car at the time. I traveled for the first 18 months in a little Honda accent, and worked from the magazine in that.
Wow.
And I loved that car. And then I ended up upgrading. But I gave all my belongings, like my kids scored furniture, you know, they got all my furniture. I've got, you know, stuff in storage, like all my books that, you know, my books are the most prized possession I have. So, you know, all my books are in storage, and the things I hold, you know, kind of special, and some probably junk is still there too, because I'm terrible at getting rid of things. But, you know, I think that decision was a bit of, you know, stages of, it just happened in stages. And I love the freedom. I love being able to wake up anywhere I want. I love being able to not be confined in a house. Like, I've been doing a lot of house sitting the last 12 months because of the big changes that I needed to create with the magazine. It just didn't make sense for me to be in my van when I had to be on my laptop, friggin' sometimes 16 hours a day. But with my load soon, hopefully lightening up, I'll be back on the road again. And so, yeah, I think it was just a mixture of a lot of different things. And I was done with renting. I was done with, you know, paying someone a ridiculous amount of money, which has doubled probably now anyway, because, you know, rent's just crap. And being tied, to the one place. And I joke, but, you know, I'm serious as well. Me choosing to leave home was the only way I could get my kids to move, you know, into their own places as well. And so that kind of kick-started them, because they were quite slow, you know, wanting to they did want to step into the space of, you know, living on their own and everything, but they were just like, oh, but, you know, it's a little bit cushier at mum's, I suppose. And so, yeah, it was just a lot of different factors, and I still love it. But I think too, and I've thought about this a lot, and a friend who is incredibly psychic said to me once, and I wanted to slap him for it, that, you know, part of it is also because I'm searching for that home. Like, there's never anywhere I've ever been that's felt home for me. And I've always felt this incredible feeling of detachment from the spaces that I've lived in, or the areas. And so, but there are certain things in nature that make me feel at home, being near the ocean, you know, being in the forest. And so, you know, I can pack up and go to any forest I want now, or I can wake up on any beach, you know, and I have that home feeling. You know, there are parts of me, and I was literally thinking about it this morning when I woke up. I am, you know, am I getting to the point where do I want another home over my head? You know, so I don't think the time is yet. But I'm certainly, I think that can look like, you know, short-term stays somewhere, or, you know, like I'm doing like house sits, or going to visit family. Like if I really want to get off the road and have that house over my head, so to speak. But yeah, I love the freedom, and I love not answering. Like, I'm such an independent soul. I love not having to answer to, you know, not that I really answered to anybody when I lived in a house, but it's just, I don't know, it's just different. Comes with challenges still though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm a creative, so I've always had a studio set up, and a studio to see clients from, and I struggle not having those things. Not the clients so much, because everything's virtual now, but I struggle with not having a jewelry desk set up. I struggle with not having an easel set up, you know, and so I've had to really, I suppose, rework how I create, and so that just looks differently. I can't, you know, I can still create. It just looks differently. But yeah, I definitely miss Pardon?
Always a way. It's just like finding it. That's
There's
part
always a way.
as well.
Always a way.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And what that gives you, I guess, in the way that you have to innovate to achieve those things that you do want to be able to immerse yourself in.
Exactly. You know,
But I hear also that it just really, there's a like almost like a activation of continue activation of who you are by the ability to be able to move to the next destination and be where you're being called to, whether it's in a forest or the ocean, and it's gifting you. I mean, that in itself is very nourishing to the soul, isn't it?
it's such a gift. And, and I do live very much when I'm on the road from that, really feeling into my intuition and into my heart, especially like where do I need to be? Where do I need to get, where am I being called? And sometimes, and the first probably year I really struggled with it. Sometimes I wouldn't know where that was until the day before. And so I went from needing to know and having it mapped out to I'm just winging it. And I used to get people ask me all the time, oh, so where are you going next? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, can you join me here in 6 months? I can't commit to that. I'm sorry. And so, and I've got other friends that are traveling as well, and they planned things. And so they could never understand actually until recently, why was it different for me? And now one of them said to me, I think probably 6 months ago, I get it now. And so I'm just led to where I need to go. And so for a bit there, I was teaching. So it was like, okay, where do I need to teach next? And so I'd run a workshop. And then, all the craziness with the changes with the magazine sort of stepped in. So I stepped away from that. But yeah, it's all soul led. Everything I do is soul led. And if it's not, if I operate on any other system, it just gets either stale or it's just clunky.
I was just that word clunky.
Clunky. I know. I was looking at you, and that's what I felt. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it actually, in the beginning, it kind of seems like it's harder not to plan, but actually it's way easier because it's about like those you talked about making less decisions on the Camino, and it's the same thing, or less choices, but it's the same thing. Like when you make less choices, like life is actually way easier. And when you have that support network that we all have, when you're so plugged into it like you are, you can trust in that, and it's never going to lead you astray, and you're always going to be looked after. So it's like,
that's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And there's been some beautiful experiences that have opened up on the road simply because I followed my I stopped at that cafe just at the right time, and ended up working. And I was with friends at the time, but we were meant to do a whole completely different day, and we ended up at this place through I can't even remember what happened at the time, and I ended up working there, doing readings there every weekend. We all did for probably a couple of months, and that was such a beautiful soul nourishing experience. And we would never have had that if we had have planned our day and really, really, followed that, opposed to, what, actually we're feeling that we need to be somewhere else.
And this is what I'm getting to, like listening is it just dropped in as well, is that because we talk around how do we form a relationship with our intuition and listen to that little voice, and you trusting this journey of being on the road is it's like just such a powerful way to tune into where spirit is leading you, where you are meant to be at the time, like whether it's in this part of the world or this part of the country or over here. It's such a powerful way to hone your skills.
Absolutely. And look, I won't lie, there are things, they're like, do this, and I'm don't.
Naughty girl.
There's many things that I don't listen to. But that's just that spirit is saying that's just pure laziness, and too, like I was I'm a trance medium as well, and I haven't tranced for a long time. And so I remember when I was before I was due to leave Melbourne, spirit like, you have to sit in trance every night. And I didn't. Like I was just like, eventually I will, and I still haven't. And they're still pushing on it, and so I will start stepping back into that space. But like little things like that, like sit with Ruppe, it's like, but I don't want to, so I resist it, and so I'm certainly not an A+ student. And I probably never have been, so that's kind of just probably my thing.
And so I think it's really good for everyone to hear that and be like, oh, okay, so if I'm stepping into listening to my intuition, to listening to spirit, to being guided, it doesn't mean that I have to be completely perfect all the time. And what does that look like? What's that mean? And I think that's just a really beautiful example of someone who's so connected, so in the work, really doing fantastic things in the world, and is still human.
And is still
Thank
human.
goodness.
Absolutely. And look, I love having a drink or going out and partying sometimes still, and it's very few and far between, but I still love just being human, and having the human experience, like the really baseline human experiences, and then the next day I might be having this really profound meditation with spirit, and so I love the diversity.
Yeah.
Well, my justification for the social occasions is like, I'm going back to the pagan days when we used to dance on the full moon.
Yeah, oh my God, I love that. I'm going to use that one.
Wine.
And in reality, it's only the judgment that we have on ourselves that means anything anyway.
100%.
So if we do everything with levity and freedom, and you were talking about your friends earlier who are in their 70s and fit and healthy and all the things, I would hazard a guess is to say that those people are just living life, like they're enjoying themselves, they're happy, and that's what gives them that strength and vitality. And sure, they might look after their bodies and all the things, but it's the energy by which you do these things with, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that if you meet life with that energy, it's naturally going to, and look, I could be wrong, and there's no one size fits all, certainly, but I think it naturally, well, for me, naturally filters down, into self-care with your body, doing the right things, all of that. Like, I know when my energy is really good, when I'm not like weighed down. Like, it's been a really heavy year with the magazine, like just all the tech stuff, and so talk about, having this great connection from spirit, but it's also been a heavy year as well. So I've been really living that duality. But when I know that my connection's on fire, I'm doing all the things and like really meeting life with that invigoration, you naturally want to eat healthier. You naturally, spirit just says the lady who had pizza last night. Oh my gosh, I just
love
had to
a good pizza.
My birthday week, I gave myself 3 days. 3 days off.
I love it.
I completely lost
track. I think a glass of red wine always goes with pizza. So.
I'm with you.
I'm with you.
Definitely. And so what do? You've spoken about meditation and the nudges from spirit to sit with, in trance as a nightly thing. What do you do to support yourself to stay in the moment, to stay present?
Certainly mindfulness, trying to be really conscious of my thoughts. Don't always get it right, especially when I'm in the thick of the magazine and it's heavy and, it's kind of really can be quite challenging to sort of lift myself out of that and be the perky, high vibe kind of medium. And so mindfulness, really catching those thoughts of, there's been a lot of doubt. I've been experiencing a lot of doubt around what I'm creating. And not because I don't know what's right. Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. I think I could be here all day. So yeah, mindfulness, being really conscious of my thoughts, meditation, having that communication with spirit, always checking in with them, being aware of any answers that I might receive and being really open to what that might look like. What else? And movement. Movement used to be such a big part of my life, and then it kind of got left on the wayside. I still moved, but you're not getting a lot of movement when you strap to your laptop for a long duration of time. And so now it's come back into I've weaved it back into my routine as one of the things that maintains my vibration, and enhances my connection to spirit. There's nothing better than going for a long walk and just the downloads. It's like when I'm long driving, when I'm on the road, the downloads, like if I'm just on the road just for that reason and the communication with spirit that I have, then it's worth it.
Yeah. And how do you
Get that.
capture those? Like, I'm kind of imagining like your conversation with spirit being almost like they're right there with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And do you have like a process of like, what's your process of capturing the download?
Well, when I'm not arguing with them.
I saw that wry smile.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have words sometimes. No, I'll record it sometimes. So if I'm driving, I'll hit record on my, on whatever I've got handy, and write it. Like I love writing, so I'll write a lot of things. I forget things really easily, and so I try and write things down. But sometimes, obviously, if I'm driving or whatever, I can't. And and look, some of them are more, me based and downloads about, awarenesses and breakthroughs I'm trying to have. And so they kind of get integrated. Like I'll go away and just contemplate what I've been told, maybe journal it, maybe not, but, just allow that to integrate and take that on. And if it's a doing thing, well, I sort of sit with it, see, how it's going to, how I can implement it and what that needs to look like. And stuff. So I suppose there's a few different ways that I
So when you're
do
sharing it, I just hit a point too, like that, with conversations with spirit. So there's a great deal of communication that is, say, collective based, and then there's some conversation that's Kim based.
Yeah, like it'll still come from my team. Whatever.
What the communication is there triggers for the communication that comes through? Obviously, perhaps that's a strong.
Yeah, there's no, I think that suits for sure, that word. A lot of it, because they're here to help us with our life. They're here to, help us learn our lessons and everything. And so I think that the manner of communication will be different based on, I think, what phase I'm in as well. I'm not sure if that answers your question. And so because I'm really in that personal growth phase and smashing through some more, shadow work and getting healthy again, a lot of the communication has been about, hey, you do that because of this, or did you know that, this happens because of this? And so they're downloads that can kind of, you can, it's no different from someone saying that to you really, and you can kind of take away, and does it resonate? Where does it fit? How can I integrate it? And then, more downloads on that collective, sometimes literally collective, in regards to the world, but, mostly business, because I'm so business focused at the moment. Nothing in my life is, void of anything else. A lot of them will be, in regards to purpose and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
That's awesome.
Your business is a purpose-driven business.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
And I do want to I know you said the doubt thing was for a whole other podcast, but I do want to touch on it because I have a feeling that it would resonate for a lot of people in the, when you mention the doubt, is it, from what spirit's guiding you to do, and the human is going, what? Is it that kind of stuff, like around, I mean, you spoke particularly around the magazine and what you've been developing there, but could you expand on that just a smidge?
Yeah, I think all of the above. The human, definitely. The remnants of feeling unworthy. Like I've got an incredible amount of trauma in my life, and so I have gained a lot of ground in my healing over the last couple of years. But before that, I felt that I hadn't even touched the surface, and so. There's still a lot of doubt there, and I'm really resisting. So it's really, really funny because I'm saying this doing a podcast, but I'm really resisting being out there again and being seen. Like I have no interest in it, no interest. and I have no interest in being in social media. Have no and spirit, you got to share, you got to get on and do. I haven't done a live for age. I can't even remember the last time, and so there's doubt in that. And so I suppose some of that doubt's resistance, because it's like, I don't want to do that stuff. And so do I not want to do that stuff because I just love, because I've just got this resistance to social media because it's social media? Or do I not want to do that stuff because, I'm feeling lacking somehow? I'm feeling like I might be judged, or self-worthy issues, or whatever that is. And so, there's been a lot of stuff like that come up. And then too, it's been like, I've just built essentially probably, a $50,000 website for the magazine. Like, it's been an incredible endeavor. And like, I'm doing it all myself pretty much. And so there's doubt around, pardon?
It blows me out every time I think about that, because it's just, it's such like, say, a work of art. Like, it really, really is. There's so much to it, and it's like a gift that keeps on giving. And especially to subscribers, it's just like, wow, the value in there is immense. And the infrastructure, it's seamless. I just just
Thank you.
created, because not only are you medium, coach, psychic, all the things, you're also a web developer and like website builder, and there's just so many strings to your bow, and I just think it's incredible.
Thank you. And look, I love that stuff. I love it. I've always built my own websites, and so I love it. But it also gets a point where it's like, oh gosh, and I'm only techie so far. You know what I mean? So there's a point where it's like, this is just fucking with my head, And so, and we're not like, we launched the new platform. Oh gosh, what was it? Probably 2 months ago, but we've been really quiet about it because, it's been in beta. I want to make sure that everything runs smoothly. I still need to take on, because I need to hire like a tech guy. So I know if anyone has any problems, that's sorted. And I've been going super snail's pace. And gosh, I can't remember my original point. And so we haven't really been sharing it. Like, I haven't let our past contributors know or anything like that. That's where I was getting to. And so we still have a lot of growth to go. We've launched this, but still, like, we've got courses, like the education component coming. Like, I'm testing it out. I've got one of my courses up there now, and a couple of students in there to see how it goes and flows and fits and everything. We're going to have expert channels, and so people will be able to actually rent space on our website for them to share their whatevers. Like, we've got so much coming. And so, Narelle, when you said it's just a gift that keeps on giving, it's just literally going to keep on giving, and just these opening up these beautiful ways for people to be seen and heard and share their mission, and, also, from the reader perspective, have your life transformed. Not everyone has, I think back, and I'm not sure if you would know this about me, Amanda, I was in a violent relationship many years ago. Like, my kid's father was very violent. And I remember even back in those days when, whether it was, before I left or after, and I, didn't have the means or the funds to go and get support or see a counsellor or, whatever that looked like. And if there had been something like this that had have, had have existed, I think I would have felt led. I would have felt that I had some form of support, even though it might not have been to the extent that I needed at the time. And
I feel that, and it's the word infinity just comes into what the potential of what you're offering is, and also the community aspect of what you're creating as well, like your spirit community, and again that intersection with your website, having the community for people here. But yes, that very, I think what I also really love around how people, what you're doing, Kim, is how you're making it so easy for people to find themselves. Like your I'm looking at the sentence that we took from your personal website. I empower awakening souls to ignite their purpose and take control of their destiny. And when it's making me and when you're in a situation where you're not in control, it's very hard to actually see that there's anything outside of your immediate situation there for you to step into.
Yeah.
So what you're creating is, powerful beyond what I think anyone can really measure at the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
When you come from that, of your own integrity, of your own experience, and the trauma and things like that, which we all have our stories, and so there's so much resonance for people. And I feel like that's where like we said at the beginning, where the life force that's in your website actually reaches people, because you were sharing at the beginning that your website comes through spirit, and everything, you're guided by spirit and what your words are on the website, and you trust that. But they don't help you with the tech, but you have to do that.
I know, I try.
I think, and what you just said then, this is where the secret, the alchemy is that frequency in there that's coming through. And this is what I love around what's possible with AI and frequency and heart coherency. There's just this fucking awesome little magic spot, and I think you're sitting right in it with what you're doing. It's just
Thank you. That means a lot, and I really love getting those confirmations, because sometimes it's like, even the other day it was like, am I on task? Am I doing the right thing? Is this, and I think because we haven't really launched out into the world yet, I keep, and I think there's resistance there as well, because I've been going at a snail's pace. The resistance is, how about if people don't like it? How about if people don't subscribe? You know what I mean? How about if, and it's just taken Fierce Truth to such a different caliber of being. And now there's that. So that's probably comes into the doubt and answering your question, how about if no one likes it? How about if I know they're going to get value from it. It really brings, I'd say like 95 at least % of the articles really, will hit some chord in you, some part of you that needs to be healed, or that some part of you that needs to realize that you can do it too, or that, the inspiration that you need to maybe even keep going, and so I know it can transform lives, but I'm not content. I'm not convinced yet that I've put it together in a way that, will it convince other people that we can transform their lives.
all
and
right.
so there's a massive amount of down around.
I'm going to take you off the hook, Miss Virgo.
Thank you.
As an Aquarian, there's like 3 big planets in Virgo that just kind of tend to, like, I hear what you're saying around, it's not ready yet, it's not perfect, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone will like it.
Yes, oh my gosh.
It's at the right time. There's more work to do yet. I think, like, just double check.
Yeah.
You're good to go, baby.
Yeah, that is so true. Yes.
Already.
Yeah, it's incredible. But I want to draw back, like, from this, because this was also like, you mentioned before, around way back at the beginning, around the Palladian team as a part of the community, and I feel a beautiful resonance with that little, and I know a lot of us humans do, but why the Palladians and not, say, the Orions or the
Yeah.
or that? Why is this such a beautiful thing for us as a humanity, but perhaps just for you? What is
they're really special for me, actually. When I first started it, and I can't share too much because it was a really sacred, closed space. But when I first started developing, I was blessed to be invited to a really special development circle, essentially. And the teacher would teach through trance. And so you would have these incredible, gosh, I want to cry thinking of it because they're so special to me. You would have these incredible Palladian teachers coming through and teaching us the most profound, stuff that's coming out now about ascension, awakening. They were preparing that, for us for that like 17 years ago, you know what I mean? And so everything that's happening in the world now is just a you know, reiteration of, you know, the lessons that we learned in the space from them, which is really beautiful, you know, because it's kind of, it's validation that we weren't all crazy. And so we used to have these beautiful Palladian teachers who I've still got a very deep connection to come through and teach us. And, you know, beautiful Native Americans and, you know, and other light races as well. But, you know, it's always, you know, the Palladians that I come back to, because they're still such a very big part of, you know, my spirit team now, and the teachings that I've gained over the years. But it was, you know, that collective, I suppose the main teachers that we had come through were, you know, the Palladian team. So they're always my, I suppose, my go-to when I want to represent the, you know, extraterrestrial races, you know, as a collective in spirit, because they're, you know, it's different with them. They're not coming through because they're dead. Well, some of them probably get to that point eventually, but they're coming through, you know, they're projecting their consciousness here, you know, sitting in meditation or whatever space they're in. And so it's a completely different dynamic, yet it's also that spirit, you know. And so but yeah, they're super special to me.
Yeah, I can feel that energy. Very close knit, just very, very authentically, beautiful, nourishing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh,
I think that brings us to our last question.
I don't want anything.
I know. Oh, it's amazing.
I've got work to do.
Yes. We've got a magazine due out on Fridays, on Sunday. So I'm just about to send it off to, so yes, work to do, unfortunately.
All right. So our last question, Kim, is how do you see the world and what do you see next for us?
Oh, gosh. Certainly, I think the thing that comes to mind the most, and it's so resonant, and something that is spoken about a lot, well, you know, for me anyway, is there's, you know, well, certainly we know, you know, there's shifts in consciousness and everything, but, you know, just tremendous timeline jumps, and really being like, really, what am I trying to say? Really take, like, we're creator beings, we create our own reality, and so the timeline that we end up on and shift to will be very dependent on the reality that we choose to create for ourselves. And so when it comes to the human race, you know, it's about what each individual consciousness is going to create for themselves, and where they, you know, what timeline they're going to end up in. It's really interesting. There's a program I'm a part of at the moment. I'm not facilitating, I'm being facilitated too, but a question around, and I'm not going to get political, but a question around the politics came up, the US politics came up, and, you know, we were just asked to sit with it. And I didn't share it at the time, but what came through for me is that there's going to be an epic like branch in the timeline, and depending on where you are with your frequency and what you're manifesting will dictate what timeline and who you experience being president.
Oh no, we just lost that lady.
My goodness.
Oh
What a
no.
moment. Isn't that wild? Right on that.
Oh, we're still recording, people. Let's just see if we can get
Just
our
hold that thought.
friend back, because I'll just pause. We'll be back in a moment, everybody.
Yeah, I'm good.
Welcome back.
And so welcome back. My gosh, for someone who's so techie, I let my laptop die. I'm so sorry. And so so I just had this vision of or this download that, you know, wherever your frequency is, whatever you're creating for your life will, you know, depict, I suppose, what path, what timeline that you end up on, and that will be you know, significant to sort of, I suppose, who you encounter and experience as, you know, president. You know, with that said, you know, past, present, future, our timelines, they all coincide, and, you know, they're all happening at the same time. And so there's still going to be versions of ourselves in living in each experience probably anyway. And so, as, for what I see of, I think the world as a whole, just this constant evolution of becoming more aware, more awake, raising our vibration and choosing to split from the, the fear-based, behavior. But you need, really being conscious of that. And I'll share this really quickly. I think about 2 years ago when I was far north Queensland somewhere, and I've always been aware of this, and especially through the teaching of The Secret, and all the spiritual teachings from Spirit. But there was a lot of, and it was at the tail end of all the craziness, and I never bought into it. And I just made a really conscious decision. I was surrounded by people that were really in the fear of what was happening. And I get that, like, we need to be educated and have an idea of what's going on, but we also need to choose what we're creating, and so I made a really conscious decision to be very mindful of what I'm creating and what I'm allowing, where I'm allowing my attention to go. And that's where I see the world I'm choosing certainly to be a part of, shifting, that there is more conscious awareness around choosing right, choosing love, frequency opposed to fear-based story. And the world shifting with that. That said, there will obviously need to be a lot of those fear stories and paradigms falling away, and we'll have an experience of that. But whether it's in our personal physical experience will be based on, my belief will be based on what we're creating for ourselves.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's really great to bring awareness to those who might not realize that it is a choice. It's a conscious choice, and we get to choose it by every thought that we think and every action that we take all day, every day. And so, we're never at the mercy or the whim of the external. It's always about what we're choosing internally, and then that reflects in our external.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have bad shit happen. People in our life are still going to pass away. We're still going to have stuff happen that is resonant to what our soul needs to learn. But let's just have a better experience at life, in the meantime, as we're living and trying to navigate this soul experience.
And what I hear you just say then too is the realization that we have a say in this, that we have power, our own power in what we're creating, like, being the creative spirits. It's not happening to us. We're experiencing it through our choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a choice. You will have such, if you wake up in a bad mood and allow that bad mood to take hold, and you're shitty all day, you will have such an incredibly different day than if you shift that bad mood straight away by putting on, I don't know, some music that you like that will help shift you, or maybe having a laugh with a friend, or doing something that can help shift you out of it if you can't do it yourself. Like, your days will look completely different. And for anyone that is, and that alone, and experiencing that alone, like, gives, it really cements the fact that we have choice. By changing your state, like, and choosing to, there are 2 different days that you can have an experience. And so I think that's kind of an easy experiment for people that don't get that to have. Just try it. If you wake up shitty, like, make the effort to get you to snap yourself out of it and see how your day is. And then maybe the next time don't, and then see how your day is. You've made that choice. Like, you've showed up for yourself, or you haven't.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And I want to ask one more question before we share something a bit special. And you've kind of come around, you've actually kind of alluded to it several times through sharing your awakening with us today, which has just been so beautiful. Is, how did you come to the name Fierce Truth?
Yeah. It was actually on that the Dancing Eros retreat that I told you about at the end, and it was so raw and so expansive. I have no words other than that. And at the end, we were given a stone, a crystal. I can't remember what it was now, but we were each asked to just, you know, place our hand in our heart and our womb, and for us to really, you know, sink into that deepness and take turns sharing whatever words came to us about ourselves. And I remember it so clearly. In my head, I was, oh, it's going to be spirit or soul or, you know, something spirit related. I was like sure of it. Anyway, I kind of just sunk into that space. And when it was I still get goosebumps, when it was my time to talk, what came out was fierce truth.
Oh, wow.
And so then when the magazine was created, the experts that were writing for us at the time, we had kind of a meeting, because it was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing because I'm crazy. We still were having kind of meetings at that time, and, you know, help me create a name. You know, they were all people that I really, really admire and trust. And we were talking, and there were a couple of other names I really loved as well that were soul and spirit based. But there are so many, you know, so many magazines. It's like, you know, spirit and soul, you know, and so really spoke about choosing something that was different. And then I spoke about that because that was on my mind as well. And as soon as I said it, you know, even when I sort of really sit with it, they just hold so much power. And so we changed it to fierce truths instead of fierce truth. I've got a lisp, so I wasn't necessarily happy about that. Because it was about everyone's fierce truths, not just mine. So I did fight on that a little bit, but one of the experts was an astrologer, and so and a numerologer as well. And so they were like, no, you know, the numbers are better, you know, if there's an S on the end. And so, yeah, so that's how it came to be. And it's not about the fierce, you know, sometimes people can easily assume that it's about, like, when we have an opinion, that's our fierce truth. That's not what I'm not talking about our opinions. I'm talking about that deep, fierce truth that exists within us beyond our programming and conditioning and who we were taught to be and told to be and shown to be, you know, that fierce core soul truth, you know, because when we operate from that place, then we're true creator beings, you know, and you know, there's just such a pure essence in that space. And there is a fierceness to it, because it takes fierceness to really say, you know what, fuck you all, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to bring out in people.
Yeah. May I say fuck yes?
Fuck yes.
Fuck is my passion word, just in case no one didn't realize.
I really love that. That's just, yeah, I could just
Oh.
feel, and just the fierceness that came through in your communication and sharing that was just so empathetic, or just,
yeah. I just feel authentic. It's just
authentic.
so authentic. So yeah, just real.
Thank you. I have doubted the name many times, thinking, and even recently, oh my gosh, should I change it? Is it not spiritual enough? It's not who we are, you know. So, and I've never been a wishy-washy spiritual person, you know. It needs to be grounded in truth and essence and I think fire and fierceness as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
I think what for me, it's so many things it speaks of, but just, you know, what you alluded to before around being in love and coming from that space, is that being in love is not a wishy-washy space. It is the strongest.
Hardcore.
Yeah, it's hardcore. It's the strongest place to stand, or the hardest place to stand, but your true strength. There's so many aspects to it, and in fierce truths, you really are connected to what what you're sharing as the creator of fierce truths, but the purpose of your experience in that space. It's like, it's like you automatically open yourself to the experience of what you're immersing yourself in that platform.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And
Thank
speaking of, you have something that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, yes. As a new launch special at the moment we're running on our new platform, we are giving, essentially, you get 12 months of premium content for half price. And so if you go to fiercetruthmagazine.com and it will be as plain as day. Go subscribe and enter in the code launch -love, and you can have 50% off your first 12 months.
Which, by the way, I mean, you're going to go onto the site and you're going to see it and be like, this is a no fucking brainer, because even the regular 12-month subscription is like, what? Like, really? Is this it? Like, you get so much value in there. And I just think it's like, hashtag duh.
I same, you know, and look, eventually, because the normal price will be like 111 a year, you know, 111 a year, and that will eventually go up as we build out, because, you know, eventually our premium, because you can either opt in for 24 hours, so, you know, just to get a taste of us, or you can subscribe monthly, which just gives you access to the magazine articles. But if you subscribe to the premium, which is, you know, the code that I just mentioned, you get, you know, meditations, you get, eventually there'll be mini spiritual teachings up there. There's journal prompts. You know, eventually there's going to be, you know, weekly, what are they called? Like events, Q&As with the experts. We'll get like a lot of the experts that contribute for us. You know, readers will be able to have Q&As with them. And so there is so much that's going to, you know, be under that premium, you know, all with the intent to help you grow, evolve, you know, change your life. But know that you can, because so many people are stuck in that space of thinking that they can't, that this is life. My life is shit. I can't move it. Well, you can. You know, you can change it. So we're here to help.
So good. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for all that you've shared today, Kim, and just watching you speaking, sharing yourself, like just the vitality, and I'll say the transformation in your energy and your face and everything is like, this is your calling, girl. Don't stop.
Thank you. It's been a week of needing that confirmation, so I'm going to lap it up.
I hear you. I mean, this lunar eclipse that we just had in Pisces, straight off, like all on your sun and everything like that, like just it's in your face to like deep soul awakening, and there's no
makes sense.
No mistakes in timing, that we're all sitting today and just being together. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. And it's been so amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun, you know, and I had shared this, you know, with like just the resistance of you know, doing the podcast, not because I didn't want to be with you girls. It's been amazing. But just the being seen, like I just want to be in the background creating now, you know, and so it's reminded me also how much I do love being in this space too. And so thank you.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. We'll have all your links in the notes with the YouTube and with the podcast for people to follow up, and especially about that incredible gift of the subscription discount that you're offering. So yeah, thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Let's figure out where the stop recording.